Hello there. Congratulations on being selected to play with the KBA Middle Level Honor Band in July. You're going to have so much fun getting together with all the different musicians across the state of Kansas and performing a wonderful concert. My name is Will Biggs. I'm the Director of Bands at Gardner Edgerton High School in Gardner, Kansas. And as you can see, I'm a trombone player. What I'm going to do today is talk you through a brief warm-up and then point out some things in each of the 4 pieces of music that you're about to play and give you some practice tips to get you ready for your performance. When I think about warming up on my instrument, there are 4 things that I like to think about. I like to think about long tones, I like to think about articulation, I like to think about lip slurs, and then I like thinking about scales. One thing that all brass players and woodwind players need to think about is breathing. Without breathing, you can't make a sound on your instrument. So before we even play a note, I would like you to practice some breathing with me. This breath should be nice and relaxed. You should fill all the way up and let it all out. So it's going to look and sound something like this. If it sounds like this, you're doing it wrong. You don't want it to sound all nice and tense. Make it sound nice, open, and dark. Do a couple more of those with me. Hopefully you can kind of feel some of your fingers kind of tingling from all the extra air that they're getting. Next, for long tones, I like to use a study called Remington. I'll give you an example of what it sounds like when I play it, and then we can play it together. So this is what it sounds like when I play it. The rhythm is really simple. Half note, whole note. Half note, whole note. Repeat ad nauseum. And the notes are easy. I start on concert F in first position, and I go down 1 position to E, back up to concert F. Start on concert F again, go down to E flat, 3rd position, back up to concert F. And I just keep adding positions as I go down until I've gotten all the way down to 7th position. Let's play that together. Here we go. And 1, 2, ready. You can do that exercise starting on the low B flat, the B flat right above the staff, D, F above the staff. What you're concentrating on is making a nice warm sound with your instrument in all of those different registers. I had my metronome set to 68. I think that's a great place to start for that exercise. Next, let's talk a little bit about articulation. In the 4 pieces of music that you have, separated articulation is a big deal. A lot of the notes in all 4 of these pieces of music need separated articulation. They have a lot of accents, a lot of staccatos. So I'm going to play an articulation exercise. I will play it first, and then I'd like you to echo after me. The rhythm is going to be simple. Eighth note, eighth note, eighth note, eighth note, quarter note, whole note. The articulation will be separated each time, and then I would like you to copy me with the separated articulation. The pattern is going to be 4 measures long, eighth note, eighth note, eighth note, eighth note, quarter note, quarter note. Repeat that measure 2 more times, and then the whole note's at the end. Starting on concert F. 1 and 2 and ready and. Do it again and home. So practice that. Make sure you're trying to get those notes nice and separated. Don't let them touch one another. It's kind of like when your mom and dad are in the front seat of the car and you're in the back seat of the car with your brother or sister and they keep touching you. That's not what we want. Don't touch one another, okay? Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about lip slurs. Lip slurs are when you go in between two notes that are in the same position without tonguing. So, for example, going from F that we started on up to B flat without tonguing it, like this. That's kind of like doing push-ups for a brass player. It's one of the most important exercises that we can do because it really builds up our muscles on our embouchure. I'd like you to take a little bit and make up some of your own lip slurs. So here's some of the ones that I like to do. You can copy me if you want, or you can make up some of your own. You can get really crazy with your lip slurs if you want. Or you can be nice and simple with your lip slurs. But the point is that you're not tonguing in between each one of those notes. Once you find a lip slur that you really like, you can play it in every single position on your instrument. Last thing I want to talk about are scales. You should always practice a scale whenever you warm up every single time. Today, I've picked 3 because your pieces of music that you have use 3 different key signatures. The key signature used on El Camino de Anaheim has 3 flats, which is concert E flat or C minor. Your music for Destiny Fanfare also uses 3 flats, again, concert E flat or C minor. Softly Speaks the Night uses 2 key signatures. It starts with 2 flats, which is concert B flat or G minor, and ends with 3 flats, concert E flat or C minor. And then your final piece of music, Dark Ride, uses 1 flat in the key signature, which would be concert F or D minor. Right now, let's go through those major keys. So we're going to play concert B flat, concert E flat, and concert F. Concert B flat and E flat will both do 1 octave. Concert F, we're going to do 2. We'll play quarter notes going up and down, and we'll repeat the top note. So here's concert B flat. It's 2 flats in your key signature. Don't forget, concert A natural. 1, 2, ready. Here's concert E flat. There's 3 flats, B flat, E flat, and A flat. 1, 2, ready, go. And finally, concert F, 1 flat, so don't forget you're going to play E natural and A natural. Both of those are in second position. Here's concert F, starting way down low. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, let's talk about your music. First one that I would like to talk about, El Camino de Anaheim. It's a really fun march-style piece of music. So all of the articulations in this piece of music are separated. There are no notes that you should be connecting one note to the other, except in measure 37, where the half note is tied to an eighth note. And then really, that's not even a legato articulation. That's just a note that's being extended by use of a tie. Look at your very first measure, measure 1. 1 and 3. If you look at that, that rhythm happens several times in your piece of music. So it's really important that you play it correctly, because if you play it wrong, you're going to play it wrong all the way through the song, and that would be bad. So when you're playing that rhythm, make sure you're playing the staccatos, make sure you're playing the accent, and make sure you're playing the other accent. 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Happens like that every single time. Play that along with me. Ready, set, and go. Ready, say, measure, go. Same, measure, ready, go. All right, make sure that you're playing that rhythm that way, with the articulation that way each time. Check out measure 30. You have a marking there says marcato. Marcato basically means march style, marked. So again, we're separated. We'll make sure that all those notes are separated. And then also through measure 30 through measure 37, I want you to make sure that you make count 1 of each measure the most important note that you play in that measure. If you put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, it's not going to sound quite right. So make sure the first note of the measure through there is the most important note that you play. So starting at measure 30 would sound like this. 1, 2, ready, and. Okay? It's pretty interesting in this piece of music because you're not really playing in the key of E flat, are you? You're playing in the key of C minor. That's really awesome. Because of that, you have something special in measure 45. If you look, you have a B natural in measure 45. B natural would be the leading tone in the key of C minor. So right there, trombone players, you get to be the leading tone in measure 45. So make sure you do not play B flat in measure 45. 7th position, B natural. Or if you have a trigger like me, you can play it in second with your trigger down. All right, let's go ahead and play through the entire song. I'm going to set my metronome on 104. So at 104, that first measure sounds like this. Bum, 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 bum. All right, go ahead and play along with me. 1, 2, ready, and. All right, let's move on to Destiny Fanfare. Now, looking at this piece of music, you can see that we have a lot of the same things to do with articulation, a lot of separated notes. In measure 4, you have a marking that you may not have seen before. You'll notice that you have an accent with the dot underneath it. Okay, so you have an accent with the dot underneath it. And what that means is they really want those notes separated. They want them accented and separated. So if I look at measure 4, I'm going to play it like this. Okay, nice and strong and separated notes. If I didn't have those staccatos on it, it would be a little bit longer. But with the staccatos, I have to make sure I make them nice and short. A little difference that goes a long way. A little bit of difference that goes a long way. So here is without the dot. This is with the dot. Okay, so make sure you get those staccatos in there. One thing that you need to make sure that you get in this piece of music is you have a nasty accidental that comes back 3 or 4 times. Look at measure 15, measure 23, and measure 27. Each one of those measures has a D flat in it, dog flat, in 5th position. I want you to go ahead and take a moment right now and mark 5th position for measure 15, measure 23, and measure 27. I'll go ahead and give you a few seconds to do that. So you got to make sure that you play 5th position. And a lot of trombone players refer to fifth position as no man's land because it's kind of out there somewhere. You have to really plug in your ears and make sure that you play that note right in tune. So if I am playing measure 14, I'm going to start on an E flat. So make sure that those notes are D flat. Another accidental thing that you need to make sure that you mark, measure 62. In that measure, you have A natural and E natural, second position on both of those notes. So if you make it to second position, you don't have to move your slide for the second note. In measure 63, though, it does go back to E flat. So make sure you go back to third position for measure 63. Okay? Let's go ahead and play this entire song. The metronome marking for this is 138. Here we go. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3. Moving on, let's talk about Softly Speaks the Night. This piece of music is the only one that you have that it really has legato playing throughout. The secret to playing legato on trombone is to have a fast slide. It's kind of counterintuitive to think about playing slow and smooth with a fast slide. But that's how you have to do it. If I try to play smoothly with a slow slide, this is what it sounds like. So I get all those smears and glisses and things in between the notes that we really don't want. So if I'm playing Softly Speaks the Night, I have to think about my slide moving quickly in between the notes. And the key is to make sure that your articulation in between the notes is not very intrusive. You need to make sure you use a soft syllable like do. Even lu works, depending on how how smooth you need to make your articulation. But you do need an articulation between the notes, because if you don't, then you definitely will get a smear. However, there are some spots where you won't get a smear. Look at measure 6, for example. No matter how much I try to get a smear between the first two notes of measure 6, I'll never get a smear there. That's because that is crossing a partial. Remember those lip slurs that we used earlier? No matter how much you try, you're never going to smear between those two notes because you're crossing a partial. Same thing is happening in measure 6. You're crossing a partial, so you'll never get a smear there. You can use that to your advantage to make sure you're playing as smooth as possible. And you can get some natural slurs in your pieces of music. Be careful of measure 31. You do have A flat in that measure. Previously, all of them had been A natural because of the key signature. But measure 31 is getting you ready for the key change that happens in measure 35. So be careful that you play A flat in measure 31. The tempo marking for this song is 76. So I'm going to slow down my metronome and we'll play the whole thing. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. And our last piece of music that we have today is Dark Ride by Randall Standridge. First thing I want you to take note of is this piece of music should be called Accidental City. Look at all of the accidentals you have in this piece of music. Starting at measure 19 and going through to the end, there are accidentals all over the place. I want you to go ahead and take a minute or two right now and mark all of those accidentals. Go ahead and pause the video and mark all the accidentals. One thing that you really have to be considerate of in this piece of music are the glissandos. Now, the glissandos are the trombone player's money, right? Nobody else in the band can do a glissando like the trombone players can. One thing that I have noticed when young trombonists are playing glissandos that they mess up on is they back off during the glissando, when in fact you should do the opposite. You should crescendo through the glissando. For example, I'll use a couple of the fun ones here at the end, like measure 61. Now, the notes in measure 61 are B flat, E, and A. Those three notes. I'm going to use first position, seventh position, second. So 1, 7, 2, 1, 7, 2, and I'm going to crescendo through the glissando. So you got to make sure that you hit count 1, the B flat, count 2, the E, count 3, the A. And don't let your air stop. Crescendo all the way through it. Each one of those glissandos, you need to play that way. The ones that measure 48 really set you up for success there, because it's marked forte piano, then with a crescendo. Really a lot of fun. One other thing that you need to make sure that you mark in your piece of music is it does say second time only at measure 19. One thing you also need to be very careful of, in the first ending in measure 26, you are supposed to play that count 4. Okay? Now, I have actually run over my time, so I hope you have a lot of fun practicing, and make sure that you practice a lot between now and July and have a lot of fun. See you later.